is our once-a-month feature that's called Investment Wisdom. Tonight on the show, we're hosting Peter Clucas, now affectionately known as Pete. He's been in the industry for 50 years and continues to manage money for his clients today. He started out his career at Fergusson Brothers back in 1963, later becoming a partner there. Then the business was bought by Investec back in 1996, and he remained head of their private client business until 1998. In 2005, Pete and Fairfax Gray started ClucasGray, an investment and fund management business. So we welcome our special guest for this evening, Peter Clucas. Thanks for joining us today. We're also joined by two strategists, Cobie, Legrange strategist at Pete's firm, ClucasGray Investment Managers, and Roland, Rousseau, equity strategist at ABSA Capital. Well, Pete, it's great to have you on the show with us today. Now, when I'm 80, I imagine sitting on a beach somewhere, thinking about the illustrious career that I've had, and certainly not getting a suit on every day and going to work. But you're obviously passionate about what you do. You love the stock market, you love managing people's money, and that's, of course, why you're continuing to work today.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Now, I find it fascinating because everybody's problems are different, everybody's needs are different. So it's you don't know what you're going to be faced with each day when you go to work. Mm-hmm.
Now take us back to the early days, because you were in fact one of the first lot of people to do the JSE exam when it first came out. So tell us about when you started out your career, and tell us about some of the names that you started out with back then.
Yes, well, when I started off, we had the open outcry on the market, and I first went into the accounts department, and it was a nightmare. For a deal, if we bought 1,000 Anglo-American shares, we might have bought them from 3 different stockbrokers, and we had to issue 3 different checks. Mm-hmm. And we didn't give them that check until they gave us the share certificates. So we had thousands of checks that have been drawn but not actually things. So the reconciliation, most auditors refused to do the audit of stockbroking firms in those days. I actually came from a firm called Pete Mitchell, which was, it's now KPMG, and I went into the accounts department to start with and was faced with the sugar battle that took place between Hewlett and Tonga to take over Natal sugar estates, and my wife thought I was mad because I never got home till about midnight for the first 3 months, but we did get a bonus every month. And then I worked in all departments there except the scrip. I did the international dealing, I did research for 3 years, and then I went on to private clients, which is this area that I really enjoyed most. Mm-hmm. The international side was fun because I went overseas a lot to in New York and to England, and made a lot of friends over there who I'm still in touch with.
Peter, in terms of 50 years of experience, there probably were 2 big paradigm shifts. Maybe you can take us through those. The one was moving from an open outcry system to a screen-based kind of trading, which I think changed the dynamics of stockbroking forever. And then the second one is when big global foreign firms waltzed into South Africa and started picking up brokers in South Africa and changing the brand and the culture. You guys got sort of bought by a local firm, Investec, but take us through those 2 kind of big changes.
Yeah, well, the change from, funny enough, my senior partner at one stage, Tony Fergusson, was instrumental in devising the clearinghouse of the stock exchange. He was the brains behind it, and it was the saving grace, as I started off saying about all these checks and things that were drawn. That stopped, and we'd do 1 check or receive 1 check once a week. So it was a major change, and I don't think we would have survived that 1969 boom very much. And things were quite crazy at that stage because, I'll give you an example. My brother was getting married in the Bahamas, and I wanted to go to the wedding, and I didn't have enough money. And went to buy some Glenanel shares, which don't exist today, the property thing, and I placed an order to buy 500 shares, and my dealer bought me 200 at 500, 100 at 750, and 200 at 1,000. all within about an hour. And I said, "Are you mad?" And he said, "Mr. Clucas, everybody wants this stock." 3 days later, I sold them at 25 Rand. And I was able to go to the wedding.
Well, you've got some photos as well. We saw that JSE exam photo that you were one of the first graduates for that exam. But take us through some of the others, Cobie.
Well, let's quickly have a look at one of those photos. The photo here that you're seeing on your screen is 1965, and this is the first graduates for the JSE exam. And as a matter of fact, there you can see Pete Clucas standing behind there receiving the award. And if you want to see what one of those first certificates look like, there you go. That's from 1965, and that just shows the Johannesburg Stock Exchange firstly giving out a certificate showing, kind of the accreditation. Pete, that must have changed the industry quite a bit, in the sense that now suddenly there was an accreditation for being an actual stockbroker.
Yes, it was actually the stockbrokers who set the exam, I don't think really appreciated how difficult it was. They gave us 2 papers to write in 3 hours, and then the other 3 papers to write in 3 hours. But the 2 they gave us to write in 3 hours was interpretation of accounts and investment advice. Now, you really needed 3 hours alone for investment advice.
Sure.
And everybody who started writing interpretation of accounts took an hour over it, except people who were fortunate enough, like myself, who were accountants, and took us 15 minutes to do it, and we were able to get it. And consequently, only 7 people passed out of the 35.
Sure.
That was amazing. I mean, not
That
much
was the
has
first
changed.
paper, but then they changed it after that from the experience.
Take us back to the days of Fergusson Brothers. And as a matter of fact, let's just look at a visual quickly of Fergusson Brothers. And there you can see it, Pete. You can see some of the partners at the old Fergusson Brothers. Take us through some of the individuals there that you see on screen at the moment.
Well, Chris Murray ran our Port Elizabeth office, and Keith Hall ran our Cape Town office, and Paul Ferguson at that stage was the senior partner, and I ran the private client side of Johannesburg. The Durban partner, unfortunately, is not there. That photograph was taken at our farewell dinner at the time Investec took us over.
And then, of course, you went on to run Investec. You were head of private clients for another 2 years.
Yes, and then I think really that's the area they wanted when they bought Fergusson Brothers, because they then bought a series of stockbroking firms on the private client side, like Martin and Company and HSBC.
It's interesting just listening to you, because that really is the area that you're most passionate about, of course, working with clients directly. So tell us about managing the client relation, some of the lessons that you can impart, and some of the kind of situations you've been up against, and when it's time to perhaps say goodbye to a client and say perhaps we're not meant to work together.
Fortunately, that doesn't happen too often, but it has happened, and we try to do it in a sort of mutual basis, but generally speaking, it's a lot of clients have become friends over the years, and I have quite a number of elderly women, particularly, who lost their husbands, and unfortunately during their lifetime paid very, very little attention to the finances of the company and knew nothing. So they come to me and ask me whether they can buy a motor car or whether they can go overseas. And really, I suppose in the old days the bank manager used to do that, and today that's what.
Tell us about the interaction at the time with Investec when they were sort of courting you. Are there any stories with Stephen Kossef in terms of how they approached you and exactly what they saw in you?
Yes, Bernard Cantor was really the one, I think, who was interested most in it. He had just bought National Discount House in Sekhold, you remember that deal, and both my sons were working there at the moment, and when he bought us, he said he'd sold the sons and bought the father. And they were actually, I thought, extremely nice when they bought us. 2 of my friends who you know got taken over by a foreign firm, and they advised me and Paul not to sell to an overseas thing because they tried to rule it from abroad and it was a completely different setup, and they thought we were very lucky to have been taken over by Investec, and they paid, they didn't interfere for the first couple of years at all.
Yeah, the foreigners definitely have a different culture. They want to internationalize the firm, which changes the dynamics of the relationships that you have with clients, etc.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Pete, at a recent event, I think it was in the beginning of this year, they celebrated 50 years in the market, and I want you to see the visual from that get together. And this is actually Pete standing with a bull, and there you can see him. It was actually awarded at the actual event to Pete. Pete, just take us through the bull. What does the bull represent in your life?
That bull was given to me by my colleagues at ClucasGray, and it's inscribed the eternal bull, because I am optimistic by nature, and I got a couple of colleagues there who are very negative.
Have you got horns?
I have.
Every bull has horns. Certain days.
And I was actually delighted to receive that, and it's a beautiful piece. Done by Donald Gregg.
So as the eternal bull, tell us about your views right now on how the asset management industry in South Africa is positioned, how it's shaping up in terms of, I mean, we're not going to get into all the nitty-gritty details, but kind of your overriding view right now on where we are in the asset management industry and how you're looking into the future in terms of where it's going.
Well, actually, I think at the present moment, most people in the industry will agree that it's probably we've been experiencing one of the most volatile periods in market history, and it's extraordinarily difficult. And one of our most difficult things is the new money that's coming in. And you've got to put it in because people gave you money. They don't want you to hold the money, so you've got to put some in. But to try and get this timing right with the volatility is quite tricky. And we think there's more value offshore at the moment than locally.
But the stocks that you will always love, or that you've had a lifetime, love affair with?
Well, SA Breweries, of course, is one. And we were the brokers to breweries. And when they had the crash in the 70s, we bought SA Breweries around about under 100 cents and yielding 8.5%. And most of those clients have still got those today. And quite well off because of that.
Yeah, there we go. Well, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. And of course, so much insight into so many years.